Welcome back, ladies and gents. It's September 6th, 2017. On a more serious note tonight, on episode number 4, welcome to the Smarmy Grin podcast. And tonight, I'll be talking about Hurricane Irma, and I'm going to vent a little bit. I'm just going to have 2 segments. I'm going to speak about Hurricane Irma. That's what I'm going to touch on tonight. And on the vent segment, it's just going to be venting about everything that's been going on for the last week now, as far as what this pertains to this hurricane. So, as you guys are probably aware, and should be by now, regardless of where you live in the country, I'm in Central Florida, and we are on the path of Hurricane Irma. This hurricane has already been through. Actually, this hurricane has just, I believe right now it's probably leaving Puerto Rico. It just struck Puerto Rico. It struck Barbuda, Guadeloupe, and various other islands out in the Atlantic. I don't know if you guys have seen the videos on YouTube so far. It looks absolutely nasty. Very, very bad. There are certain sections of Guadeloupe and Barbuda that were flooded. Most of these islands were flooded. Not all of them, but most of them. To look like the 2011 tsunami in Japan. That's what the streets look like. And I think as of right now, there's only been a handful of deaths, which is remarkable. So, as of right now, I believe this storm is hovering over Puerto Rico, or about to exit Puerto Rico, and it's making its path towards the Dominican Republic, Haiti. It's not going to make straight contact with those two, with that island. After that, it's going to hit Cuba, and then on the northern tip of Cuba, is going to hit the Keys. And from what I've seen so far today, I've seen a couple of weather forecast updates. I'm getting extremely worried. Not that I wasn't before, but this is a very dangerous storm. But what I'm worried about is that this thing, what they're speaking about tonight, is that this thing is just going to linger right in that area between South Florida and Cuba. So like smack sandwiched in the middle, right there in the Keys. It's basically going to hover there for a little while and then slowly move northeast, which, if it stays on course from what the forecasters are saying, it's basically going to it's going to hit the East Coast. The east coast of Florida, and then makes its way north. It's going to hit Georgia from what the forecasters are saying. So it's going to hit Georgia and South Carolina and North Carolina eventually. It's a big storm. It's a big storm, about the size of Texas. Sustained winds throughout Guadeloupe, Barbuda, Puerto Rico, 185 miles an hour. That's sustained. It's not gust or gusts. It's sustained. That is absolutely crazy. That's the equivalent of the Tuscaloosa tornado of 2011. If you're not familiar with that tornado, I would say look it up on YouTube. It was an F4, and I believe the wind speed was right in excess of 180 miles an hour, if I'm right, above 175. So very, very destructive. It's absolutely scary seeing the footage coming out of Guadeloupe and Barbuda and these other smaller islands. The force of these winds is just incredible. I've never seen anything like that from a tornado. I'm sorry, from a hurricane. I've seen them from tornadoes. And it's extremely scary because a lot of these people, they live in these islands and they don't have anywhere to go. So it's not like they can get underground, they can get into a basement or something like that. They can't. So I'm hoping that everyone in the Caribbean is doing well. I'm extremely, extremely saddened by this. It's we just don't need this. The Caribbean doesn't need this. Our country doesn't need this after Harvey. And in Florida, we're just waiting to see what happens. And so now it's just a waiting game. I figure by Friday we should know what's going to happen, what's going to go on, as far as like what track this thing is going to definitively take. From what a lot of these forecasters are saying, it's going to go northeast and then hit either, it is going to hit Georgia, and it's definitely going to hit South Carolina. So it's probably going to hit 3 more states after it passes through Florida. So it's a big, big storm, and I'm extremely worried because the path, one of the paths basically takes it right along the coast of Florida, and that means we're only here in Central Florida where I live. I'm smack in the middle, so I'm like about an hour to the west coast and about 45 minutes to the east coast. So if this thing goes along that path, and if the eye is only like 50 miles offshore, then we're going to get hit with Category 3 winds here in Central Florida, which I'm really not looking forward to that. I'm extremely worried. I never get worried about these storms because usually something positive will happen where a lot of these storms will just veer off and go in a different direction, or they'll just die down a little bit. Usually Cuba is the biggest buffer that we have as far as these storms are concerned. So thank God for Cuba. A lot of people really don't pay attention to that, or a lot of people don't appreciate what we have down south, and what I mean by that buffer zone in Cuba. So Cuba has kept a lot of strong storms out of the path of Florida, or has diminished that path, or that storm's path. So this is a scary, scary storm. It really is. I cannot even begin to imagine what these people out in the Caribbean went through earlier today when this storm just barreled down all these islands. The wind speeds are just scary. Absolutely scary. I've never seen anything like that from a tornado. I'm sorry, from a hurricane. I keep saying tornado. And the reason I keep saying tornado because I've never seen wind speeds like this from an Atlantic hurricane ever this high. And I usually see that with tornadoes by spending so many time watching tornadoes over the last 20 years, actually 25 years, because I used to read a lot of books about tornadoes when I was in high school. I was always intrigued by them, and I've always loved reading about it and watching them on back in the day in various shows, and now with the use of YouTube, watching those and watching the storm chasers and following a bunch of storm chasers on YouTube that do a great job of covering these storms, especially tornadoes and hurricanes and other natural phenomena. But this is absolutely scary. I've never seen anything like this before in my life. I've been here in Florida for over 30 years. went through one storm. Actually, no, went through, as of right now, I've been through 5 different hurricanes. So a handful of hurricanes. Charley was the worst. And Charley, when it went through Central Florida, was a Category 2. And when it hit my area, the wind speed of that hurricane was right at 106, between 105 and 110. And it did a lot of damage. It did a lot of damage. And I still remember it as if it was yesterday, because there was a lot of damage around town. I was without power for 2 weeks. A lot of people were out without power for longer, shorter. And the cleanup was intense. It was a mess here. We had utility trucks from all over the place, from South Carolina, North Carolina, Alabama, Georgia. So thank God for all those utility companies and from all those utility workers that came down here and helped out. So thank you very much. A lot of people here in the community, right after Charley went through, we were very, very appreciative of what they did for us, the work that they did for us here to get us back and running. So especially our local utilities company, they did a great job. But it was a complete, utter mess. A lot of old oak trees down, uprooted, all over the place. I think that one of the most unpredictable parts of these hurricanes are the tornadoes that they spawn. People really don't think about that. So that's what we also had to deal with that. I know a tornado landed in front of my mom's house, in the park that's right there in her neighborhood. When I went there the next day with my neighbor, and we saw the U-shaped trail that it left in the park, where you could see where it landed and where. So you could see from where the I believe was the western part of the tornado, the northwest section of the tornado. That's where the tornado formed, and then you can see where it dissipated on the northeast side of the tornado. So, on the northeast side of the park. And you can see the trail because you could see the pine trees. A lot of these pine trees were cut basically in half. The top part of these pine trees were all torn off. And that was the weirdest thing I've ever seen in my life. And you could see where it just made that trail through all these trees, and through the basketball and tennis court, and it just went all the way back to a little pond that was in the back. So that was scary. I know my mom's neighbor had a really bad experience with that because he heard it. He heard the tornado. A bunch of my friends were affected by these tornadoes. I know I was leaving my friend's house, and I went to check on my other friend along the way because I was going back home. This was right after the storm. The storm really only lasted, I think it was in and out within an hour. So the dumbest thing that I could have ever done was just leave my friend's house. This was like in the middle of the night. This is like 11 midnight. So I left my friend's house. It was really stupid right after the hurricane, and drove back home. I wanted to make sure that my mom was okay. But my mom wasn't there. She was in Tampa. She was taking shelter there with some friends. So on my way to my mom's house, I wanted to check out my mom's house. I went through my friend's neighborhood, and I couldn't even get through his street because his street was blocked with oak trees all over the place. About 5 oak trees landed on his house, and that was because of the hurricane plus the tornado that went through there. And you can see the destruction there as you were driving through that area, his neighborhood. So I'm not looking forward to this. I'm not looking forward to the cleanup. I'm not looking forward to long lines at the grocery store. The biggest thing, though, I'm not looking forward to not having electricity for I'm assuming this is probably going to be longer because this is such a big storm that we're probably not going to have electricity for about a month. I hope that's not the case. I'm hoping that this storm will hook to the right, northeast, and stay offshore about 100 miles. If it does that, that would be such a huge relief for our state of Florida. So just going through all these storms, it's just stressful. As a homeowner, you're stressing about the preparation. You're stressing about getting food, getting water, boarding up your house. And then after that, once you do all that, it's just a waiting game. And that's the worst part. You're just waiting to see what's going to happen. So I'm not looking forward to that. I'm not looking forward to this waiting game. And I believe we're going to start getting the outer bands of this hurricane on Sunday. That would be, I believe that's 9/11 on Sunday. So we're going to start getting the outer bands there then, and then by Monday morning around 8 o'clock, it should be through our area of Central Florida. I'm extremely worried about my family down in the Keys. Not worried about them per se because they just came up here to Central Florida to get away from the storm. But I am worried that once they go back, they're not going to have a home to go to because they live down in the Keys closer to Key West. And if you're familiar with that area, if you've been to that area, as beautiful as it is, obviously it's surrounded by water. So their house is going to be completely underwater. How many feet, I do not know. That whole area is going to be inundated. I'm worried that they're not going to have a house to go back to. And that really saddens me. It saddens me not just for my family, but for a lot of people that live down there. I've been there a handful of times, and I love going down there. And my heart just breaks for them. And if you're not familiar with the Keys, I would say go on to Netflix if you have Netflix and watch that show Bloodline, which is a great show. That show was filmed down there. It's a Netflix show, and it's only 3 seasons long, but the whole show, all 3 seasons, were filmed down in the Keys and a little bit in Miami. So if you're not familiar with the Keys and that area, Isla Morada, that show gives you a great glimpse of what it's like down there. So I'm very saddened that this storm is going through there because it's going to level this area. I hope it doesn't happen. I hope this area survives, but it doesn't look good, especially if this storm sits right on top of that area, like forecasters are saying it will, before it makes its move northward. So I'm extremely worried about that area. And it breaks my heart because it's really beautiful down there. There's a lot of history down there too. And there's a lot of good people that live down there. I'm sad. I'm saddened for my state. I've been here all my life. I love Florida. I'm saddened for all my friends, my family here. I'm saddened for everybody who lives here. It's gonna be a mess, and we'll get through it, and we'll work it out, and we'll move on. But this is gonna be the 5th one, and I have to be honest. I don't know if I want to go through this again. It's just too stressful. Too stressful just to get things ready. Too stressful to think about what's going to happen. The unknown, that's what stresses me out. So I have no idea what's going to happen after all this, after this storm goes through Florida. I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know what I'm going to do after Irma goes through here. Obviously, the recovery is going to take a while, but I'm not sure if I would want to stick around here for another storm, honestly. I'm done. I'm done with the storm. We were very lucky last year that Matthew didn't hit us. That stayed out in about 100 miles east of the east coast of Florida, so that was great. We dodged a big one there because that was a massive storm too. So we were extremely lucky not to get hit by that one. But this one, it's just it's scary because this one's bigger. This storm is the size of Texas. I mean, that's incredible. And it's a very scary storm. I don't know. I've been thinking about it ever since Harvey hit Houston. I have family in Houston, and I know how that they are being affected by that, and how my family here in Florida and my friends are going to be affected by this. So I don't think I have the energy to go through another storm again. I really don't. I don't want to go through this storm, and I definitely don't want to go with or go through any more storms. So I do not know what's going to happen. I don't know what's going to happen in the future, if I'm going to stick around here in Florida or just find a new place to live. But we'll see what happens after the storm. Like I said, I'm praying and hoping for the best, and hoping that this thing will just stay out in the Atlantic. And I hope that no one else gets hit by it either. And so now it's just a waiting game. It's from what I saw and read on a few articles on Yahoo, and you know how much I love Yahoo. No, I don't. But I think at one point they registered this storm was clocked at 200 miles an hour. That is absolutely ridiculous. And it had to be scary. The biggest thing for us here in Florida is that it's not going to be a Category 5 hurricane, so thank God for that. Thank God that it's not a Category 5. So we're extremely thankful for that, and I am as well, because it could have been worse if it was a Cat 5 that was headed our way. Or it could be worse if it was a Cat 5 that was headed our way. So I know that other parts of the world, typhoons and the Pacific and all that, I believe that those storms, as far as wind speeds, are higher than the Atlantic hurricanes, and they're used to that. But how can you get used to this? This is my 5th one, and I'm not used to it. Every single article that I've read online and every single comment that I've read on YouTube, it's like, well, Floridians are strong. Yeah, we're strong. And the next comment, the comment that follows that is, well, they're used to it, so they'll be all right. No, I'm sorry. If you've never been through it, you never get used to it. You just don't. I don't think anybody that's been through this has gotten used to this. Yeah, you might get used to the process, but you're not used to it because of all the stress behind it. So no, we're not. Every single storm or every single hurricane or tropical depression that hits your state is completely different from the last one. For example, Charley. Francis followed Charley. That was a boring, long weekend. That was a massive hurricane too. But thank God that the winds diminished, and by the time it hit us, it was a low Category 1 hurricane. And it lingered, and it took the whole weekend for that thing to leave Florida. There was nothing but wind and rain. That's all we had. The wind wasn't bad at all. The rain wasn't bad at all. But it was the most boring weekend that I ever had in my life because you couldn't go anywhere. They had a curfew, a 4-day curfew. And you were stuck at home And when these hurricanes, when the outer bands start hitting your city or a town, the very first thing that you are not going to have is going to be electricity. So in the first 20 minutes or half an hour of when the outer bands start hitting your town or city, your electricity is going to be gone. So that's frustrating. So you better have plenty of books, which I do, but you better have plenty of books and candles and whatever else you have, so you can keep yourself entertained. And that's how I kept myself entertained that weekend, was from just reading all weekend long. You couldn't do anything. You couldn't go anywhere. No electricity. It was hot, humid. And it was the same thing with Charley for 2 weeks. I mean, granted, we didn't have a curfew after the storm, but you really had to watch where you went. You would go to the store, and then you had to wait in line. You go to the grocery store. A lot of these grocery stores, they had no electricity, running on generators. So you would walk in, and keep in mind, this was before cell phones. So you walk in, it was dark, buy your stuff around 7 o'clock, the store is closed. Now, if you were one of the lucky stores that had electricity, then you're good to go. But so long lines everywhere, long lines for gas, long lines for everyday things that we take for granted. Just during a storm takes forever. And it was just amazing seeing the destruction that, just the damage that it caused the Central Florida area. But yeah, it's just the fact that you have to wait in line forever. You have no electricity, so at night you can't get any sleep because you're hot and humid. And even if you sleep on the floor, you're still going to be hot and humid. You don't have no fan because you have no electricity. Even if you take a shower and you sleep on the floor, you're still hot and humid. Another reason that you can't get any rest when there's no electricity, besides the heat and the humidity, no fan, no AC, is because generators are going off all over the place. So that keeps you up all night because you're not going to be able to sleep from all the noise, that all these generators are making. So that's another thing that people don't really think about. So it was a long 2 weeks. And thank God for my neighbor. After the first week, when he got his electricity back, he hooked me up with a little bit of electricity. He basically ran a long extension cord from his house across the street to my house, so I could at least watch TV. So I'll never forget that. I thought that was the coolest thing ever. And a week after that, that's when we got power back. So that's what people go through when a hurricane goes through your area. So I don't know what's going to happen here. I don't know how long we're going to be without power. It's probably going to be a while. By the size of this storm, it's going to be a while. So I'm worried about my state, and I'm worried about my people here. So it's a little bit scary. So I'm hoping for the best. I'm hoping when Friday rolls around, they have great news for us. At least the national weather.com or NOAA or the local forecasters. I hope that they have great news for us and just tell us that this thing is going out in the Atlantic far enough where we're just going to get the outer bands, and I'll be happy with that. If we get Category 2 winds, I'll be extremely happy with that, because there's a huge difference between a Category 2 hurricane, a 3, and a 4. And what they're saying right now, this is going to be a 3 going through Florida, a 4 down south, and 3 in Central Florida, and a 3 in North Florida. So I don't want that for my state. I hope that we get a Cat 2. If anything, if we get hit with anything, I hope it's a Cat 2 and not a Cat 3 or 4. So, oh man, just a little bit worried here. let me go to the Yahoo section here and just read some my favorite part of Yahoo, as I've spoken about in previous episodes, the Yahoo comments on Yahoo, and just so you guys could hear or listen to what people from other states or from people all over the world are saying here about this Hurricane Irma. And I'm not saying not just about Florida, but just what went on in the Caribbean. This guy right here just wrote, at Category 5, any smart person should evacuate. Just my 2 cents. And I completely agree with you. Honestly, if this thing turns out to be a Cat 4 that goes through Central Florida, I'm getting the heck out of here, man. I don't know where I'm going, but I'm getting out of here. Chances are I'll probably be hitting the Panhandle, and hopefully land in Alabama somewhere, and land in L.A., La La Land, Lower Alabama. So here's another comment. Where is that Tampa professor to tell us that it's instant karma? Yeah, I don't know if you guys heard about that, but some idiot professor out in the University of Tampa said last week when Harvey went through Houston that it was instant karma for voting for Trump, which is absolutely ridiculous. And honestly, if this dude was at my school, I would want him fired, which he did. Hey, listen, I didn't vote for Trump and I didn't vote for Hillary. But at the same time, that is the most idiotic comment that anybody could make. And if that dude is teaching me, then I will start questioning that university's hiring practices, honestly. So it's absolutely ridiculous to say that instant karma. Nobody deserves a flood. Nobody deserves destruction on their city or town or wherever you live. It's absolutely ridiculous. There's another one from the Yahoo comments section. Love all these computer models of where the storm will go. Everyone is different. They have no idea where it's going. And that's the most frustrating part. They don't know where this thing is going. The only thing that they know right now is that once it hits Cuba, the northern part of Cuba, it's going to be sandwiched there between South Florida and Cuba, right in the smack middle of the Keys for a little while, and then slowly move northeast. But if you've seen the models, I'm sure a lot of you people have, what they're calling it the spaghetti model, because it's going everywhere. They're forecasting it to go in so many different directions that nobody has any idea where this thing is going. So that's the most frustrating part of not knowing where it's going to go. I think a lot of the forecasters are going to have a better, they will know more by Friday where this thing is headed. So they'll have a better description of what path this thing is going to take, or a more specific description of what path this thing is going to take. Oh man, so weird. Jeez, don't you listen to Rush Limbaugh? This is all fake news, and it's nothing more than a liberal, whatever that means, conspiracy. Okay, whatever. All right, there's another comment. This is a dude from Orlando. I'm in Orlando, and after seeing Harvey hit Texas, I'm bugging out. My sister's in Jacksonville, Clay County side. So he's bugging out for him and for his family, his sister up in Jacksonville. Yeah, I understand where this dude is coming from. All right, here's another one. My daughter lives in Coral Springs, and apparently they're already out of gasoline, plus a 24-pack of water cost $19. Anyone charging that kind of money should be fined. Save those receipts, everyone, and report the bastards. Yeah. I don't get this. I really don't understand it, and I'm going to do this on the vent section coming up. But she's absolutely right. She brings up, this person brings up, actually, this mom brings up a good point. Mom or dad, she brings up a good point. You should save your receipts if you feel that you're being price gouged. And that's absolutely ridiculous. And this is on par with people looting last week in Houston. It's despicable that a lot of these businesses are doing that. So definitely save those receipts for later. And we need to out these people, because this is, I know we live in a free society, and I know that we live in a capitalist society, but this is beyond what is, or what one would call moral. It's completely immoral. There's another one. When you live on a railroad track, the train eventually shows up. Yeah, that's true, but hey, every state has its own issues, so. And here's another one. Been in 8 hurricanes. Left for anything that was a 3 and above. Bugging out here. Material things can be replaced. Bye-bye. And that's exactly how I feel. If this hurricane passes through Central Florida as a 4, if that's what they're going to predict, I'm getting in my car and I'm heading west. And when I'm actually heading northwest, I'm getting the heck out of Florida. I mean, as far away as I can get from Central Florida, that's what I'm going to do. I'm not going to stick around for that. So I'm just going to pray for my home and my neighbors, and I'm out of here. So that's what everybody right now is just waiting on. Another comment here. Prayers to Florida. Thank you, whoever wrote that. Thank you very much. So that's just a few comments here. Actually, I'm gonna read this last one because I can't believe this guy's staying. So if this storm Irma goes through the East Coast, and I'm talking about the coast itself, I don't understand why you would stay along the coast, because you are in so much danger, more so than people inland. But there's a guy that writes this, and he lives in Daytona. I live here in Daytona Beach Shores. I live on the 10th floor and have had steel hurricane shutters installed. And I have 50 gallons of water, as well as 2 boxes of sweet chili tuna, 4 loaves of bread, a case of pink stewed beans, enough ice to fill my 2 large coolers, and a portable gas stove. I also have a small 240-watt generator that holds 2 gallons of gas, enough to keep the generator running for 36 hours. And last but not least, I have a bottle of Absolute vodka and a suitcase of Miller Genuine beer. I'll be just fine. Well, I mean, in the long run, this dude will be fine. But if you're on the 10th floor of any building on the East Coast, especially Daytona or along the coast there, man, you have to be absolutely crazy. Because I wouldn't want. I already seen the videos of these winds coming out of the footage, the video footage coming out of the Caribbean. I wouldn't want to be up that high with winds coming at my condo or whatever, my building. I would like probably soil my pants. No, not probably, but I would. So, well, at least the vodka will numb his worries. So that's one of the first things that I'm kind of surprised though, because you know when people are taking a hurricane serious is when they go to the store, the grocery store, and when you go to the beer aisle, the beer is still there. Because usually it's the other way around. If this storm is a joke, or if people are not taking it lightly, the first thing to go is the beer. And the last thing that they'll leave there is the water. And this time around, the water's gone and the beer stayed behind. which I'm kind of disappointed with Floridians. Come on, man, we love hurricane parties, but this is a serious storm, so I understand why a lot of people are just packing up water and not beer. And you definitely don't want to be inebriated through a hurricane, especially like this one. But you still need your beer, man. You got to numb the worries, and you got to numb your concerns as this thing is going through your area. So, but yeah, that last year during Matthew, because at the last minute, not the last minute, but a day or two before, actually it was the day before, we found out that the storm was going to hook right and go north and stay offshore. Everybody just went down to the store and all the beers are gone. So that's the first thing they took. That's the first thing they bought, and they left all the water behind. So it's just it's a wait and see kind of game, and I'm just hoping for the best. I'm hoping for my state, my family, my friends. I'm extremely worried about them, and it's just concerning that this thing is heading this way, and a lot of people are going to be affected by this. So, and our nation too. I mean, this is back-to-back disasters. Hopefully the second one is not a disaster, this Irma, but the Harvey was. So, like I said in episode 3, we tap out, man. We don't want this. You can leave, Irma. We don't want you. Just go. And not to mention, I forgot about that, there's another one behind that one. Jose, thanks, Africa, again. So we got to worry about that one after Irma leaves. Oh, my God. So I cannot wait. So moving on. We're going to be moving on to what I call the vent section, or vent segment of my podcast. I'm going to cut this short a little bit, and exactly what I want to bring up is price gouging. So this lady brought up a good point in one of those Yahoo comments. If you think that you're being price gouged, just keep that receipt, and just for later use, and out these people. Another thing that I want to bring up is my co-worker was saying that he was looking at airline tickets earlier today, because a lot of people are trying to get the heck out of here by whatever means. So he noticed that earlier in the week, a flight from here in Central Florida to Connecticut, that New York area, was $159 for a one-way ticket. Today, he goes on Travelocity, and he finds the same flight for over $1,000. You have got to be kidding me. These airlines have no shame. How can you charge people that are trying to get out of here $1,000 for a one-way ticket? I'm assuming if you get a round-trip ticket, it's probably going to be like around $1,600. But that's just absolutely ridiculous. And that's price gouging. So if you're one of those people that bought airline ticket to get out of here, and you got overpriced, save that ticket and out these airlines, because this is absolutely ridiculous. I would take that ticket to the local news networks and have them investigate why they did that, because this is absolutely disgusting. How can you be ripping people off in times like this? I honestly don't mind if they would have doubled the price, let's say from $159 to $300, right? One-way ticket. Okay, I get that. I understand. But from a ticket to go to $159 to over $1,000, $1,000. It's absolutely just, you're just robbing people. You're robbing the public. You're robbing customers. And this is one of the things that people need to keep an eye out, especially people that live here in Florida, or if you're going to be affected by this Hurricane Irma and the one behind that. Keep those receipts if you feel that you're being price gouged, because there's going to be a lot of people and a lot of businesses that are going to take advantage of this situation, and it's absolutely disgusting. It really is absolutely disgusting. I couldn't live with myself if I did that. I really couldn't. I couldn't do that to another person, especially during a time like this when we're supposed to look out for each other. So this is it's just shameful. It's really disgusting and shameful, especially coming from these big corporate airline companies. So, but are you surprised? Not really, because one of the biggest scams that are out there are all these airline companies. On a regular week, doesn't matter when, if you take that any natural disaster aside, just on a regular week, their tickets are always fluctuating throughout the week. I don't understand that. I think that's another way of price gouging the public as well. So you just got to keep an eye on that. Just keep an eye on people ripping you off, especially in a time like this. And like that earlier comment that I read on Yahoo, that's already happening in South Florida. Fantastic, people. Fantastic. Way to rip off your neighbor. Way to go. The hurricane hasn't even hit and you're already ripping people off. Because this is going to happen after this hurricane goes through Florida. This is going to happen in the aftermath. You're going to see a lot of this crap. You're going to see a lot of people ripping other people off. Businesses ripping other people off. Ripping their customers off. And that's definitely what's going to happen. I can already see that coming because I saw that happening right after Charley, before and after Charley. So just be aware and be conscious, and don't get caught in any of these scams. But I'm going to end the podcast on that. A little tonight's podcast was a bit somber. That's because I'm a little worried. So I hope you guys are keeping us here in Florida in your prayers. And I just want to I appreciate you guys listening to me tonight. And I will keep you guys updated on what's going to happen in these upcoming days. And if I can, which I will, that's going to be my plan, I will also upload some video before the storm and after the storm. So just check that out and keep an eye out on that on the Smarmy Grin YouTube channel. I will have those uploaded next week. I'll probably have some uploaded this weekend. I'm not sure yet. And as far as listening to previous podcast episodes, just go to the Smarmy Grin YouTube channel. Listen to previous episodes, or you can go to SoundCloud. But I'm going to load all these podcasts up on YouTube. I have all of them on SoundCloud, but there's only 2 and 3 in SoundCloud right now. So the rest of these episodes, I'm going to load them in both places, SoundCloud and YouTube. And I just want to thank YouTube for this platform and for allowing me to make this channel so you guys can listen to my podcast, my full podcast. And so thank you, YouTube, for that. And I will keep you guys updated with this storm as the days go along. So you might hear from me tomorrow. You'll definitely hear from me before the storm. And so I'll keep you guys updated. And look out for those videos. And stay safe if you're in Florida. And just wishing you, and I'm wishing and praying nothing but the best for all of my Floridians, my fellow Floridians. So stay safe, stay dry, and I'm hoping that next week, I'm hoping that by Friday we have better news as far as where the storm is going to go. So thank you for listening tonight, and please stay safe out there, and I will talk to you guys next time, and have yourself a great night. I'll talk to you later. See ya!